coverage is getting better each and every week. I think the players are figuring it out.
I think there's a huge edge in this thing for good putters and good short game wizards.
Dr. Chapinski. What's it doing again? Yes!
Welcome back after a week off from TGL. It's the TGL show. We're back. I am your host, of course, PGA professional Keith Stewart, and I am with the voice of golf's video game. That's right, TGL, the one, the only, Mr. Joe Idoni. Joe, did you miss me last week?
I always miss you, Keith. Matches 9 through 12 on tap. 1, 2, 3 into the 4. Monday, Tuesday, we're going to knock out all 4 matches. Back-to-back weeks. We're halfway through the season. The second half is going to take place in like the next 8 days. Excited, fired up to get back in there with you, our buddy John, this week as well, and talk through a little bit of preview tonight as well.
Oh, that's right. PGA TOUR is going to be joining us. John, the one and only John Hasselbauer, your co-host on Preferred Lines, which, by the way, that show moved to Sunday night. Guys are killing it. I absolutely love that to start my PGA Tour week. But this is, of course, a TGL week at the same time. And we did have our mid-season break there. And, maybe the logical thing to do would be have 2 matches because we missed a week. But no, we're having 4 this week, as you just so eloquently explained. But before we go there, with your week off, anything interesting happen? You're watching some golf, getting outside, maybe playing some golf? Like, catch me up on your world.
Yeah, haven't played a lot. Been really busy coaching kids lacrosse, so been keeping busy. Was nice to get a little family time in, but excited to kind of wrap this season up in the SoFi Center. Like you mentioned, right before we left off, we had 2 matches that were a good reminder to me, I hope to you as well, that anything can really happen in this league. It feels pretty wide open at this point. We have 4 crucial ones on deck, 2 teams that are going to be tasked with double headers. So fired up to get into this week's episode.
Absolutely. And one more thing. I mean, the TGL and the PGA Tour just must be gluttons because not only do we have 4 TGL matches this week, but right there in Palm Beach Gardens, we have the Cognizant Classic. The PGA Tour is starting the Florida swing. Any big plans for the Cog this week over there at the Bear Trap?
Oh, yeah. Me and my family have been attending that event for years. I know you will be there as well in the media center during the week. I'm going to head over there in the weekend. Fired up to be there. Excited to see Brooks back on the PGA Tour. So that'll be an exciting moment for me, and those who follow me understand why. But I love that event. I just hope that they bring some of the fire in carnage back into that golf course. You know, I love myself a little bit of carnage. We talked about in the TGL show. So hopefully PGA National brings its bite back, and we see that this week.
Yeah, I'm with you in lockstep on that. I love competitive chaos. I use that phrase all the time, and that's what you want. You just want a lot of volatility. You want to see a lot of entertaining golf. You want to see, like hopefully what we're going to see at Riviera on Sunday. This show will come out on Sunday morning of the final round at Riviera. And yes, I know Jacob Bridgman has a big lead, but Akshay had a big lead last week in Pebble, and we saw how that turned out. Rory hunting you down in the final group. That's a pretty good face to stand up against. So if Jacob Bridgman pulls it off, staring down Rory, that's a pretty good job on his part. And, I know Scotty's probably too far back to do too much damage, but I'm sure he wants to keep that top 10 streak alive. But keeping in mind, right, all that's going on this week, I think it's important that you and we give everyone a little perspective on where we stand with the regular season for the TGL. We have 4 matches this week. We actually have 7 matches in the next 9 days to wrap up the regular season, but let's focus on these 4 this week. When you look at the standings, right, what kind of jumps out to you? What are you expecting from this week? And, what kind of grabs your attention? Break it down for me.
Yeah, I'll bring in the standings here because you see how kind of packed together a lot of these teams are. So it goes by holes won. Obviously, record comes into a factor there, but the Bay, what they were able to do, scoring 11 points the other night with 3 brand new guys in the lineup, Minwoo and a couple of rookies, was huge for them. New York has a couple of huge matches this week. Obviously, we lead things off with Boston Common and Atlanta Drive, the battle for first place up there, but everyone is so close. With only a few matches left in the season, only 4 teams, of course, Keith, as you know, make the playoffs. So a ton on the line. A lot of teams are going to be rolling out their A lineups this week. We'll get more into that as the show progresses. but excited to see how this whole thing kind of unfolds.
Now, I knew you were gonna break this down like you do everything, and I wanted to be as knowledgeable as I could looking at the standings, and I thought it was interesting how they still have the teams ranked based upon the tiebreakers, and it's really important that everyone understands this. That at the top, both teams have 4 points, Boston and Atlanta, but why is Atlanta one? Well, because not only are they tied with the number of holes won, but then it goes the second tiebreaker is single holes won. And, that's the breakdown because with only 6 teams and only 5 matches, you're going to get a lot of ties. So it's important that you understand the tiebreakers and how important, they always are stressing those single holes, right? I mean, I know triples are important too because it's total holes won, but the single holes are definitely key as we look forward to these 4 matches this week.
Absolutely. Yeah. Atlanta's going to play their final 2 matches on Monday night when we're in there. One thing to keep in mind here when looking at this is there are 2 teams, both New York and Boston. Boston currently in second place, 15 holes won. They've played 1 less match than Atlanta. So a huge advantage spot for them. As soon as they win 1 hole on Monday night in the early match, they're going to go ahead and take the lead there. A couple of big ones for New York there. Obviously, Jupe Links with a great performance before we left over the break. Everything's on the table for all of these teams. So it's right out there in front of you. Put your best lineup forward and go win some holes.
Now, there's one more thing I want to talk about before we get into the 4 previews, and that is that with the tour coming into town this week, now we've got all the stars aligned with the TGL and the tour being in the same place, being in the same state for about the next month, right? Are there any trends that you're starting to see when it comes to the TGL and how it's influencing PGA Tour golf? I know everyone always loves to make fun of you and I that we pay attention to how these guys are playing in there, but the last time I checked, the only guy on tour with 2 wins is Chris Gotterup right now in 2026, right? And he's the TGL guy. So, are there any other trends that you see that's going on with TGL that may help, some of the prognostication that people might be making for the Cognizant, API and going forward?
Yeah, if you remove the swing season, 6 of the last 8 winners on the PGA Tour have been in TGL. Those other 2 were both Scotty Scheffler. So I do think there is some connective tissue here, Keith. We look at it, we see guys, and I pull a lot from warm-ups as well. We're in there 30 minutes prior just to get to see these guys hit it. When it's going where they want it to go, it is a big thing to be able to see guys move the ball different directions and how they're hitting the golf ball. You can really gather a lot from it, as you do on the range when you were going to 30 PGA Tour events a year. You can pick up a lot from that. We saw it coming with Michael Thorbjornsen right before he went out there and nearly won the Amex. We saw it obviously coming with Chris Gotterup. It's exciting stuff. Now, obviously, a lot of the best players on the PGA Tour also play in TGL, but just really cool to see how they've been able to produce early in the season. And I think the TGL may be giving them a little bit of a kickstart. We get the return of Justin Thomas this week. I'm super excited about Monday. Both of us will be there, as well as John Hasselbauer. We get to see Justin Thomas back. Also, one night at Palm Beach State College, we're going to have the number 2, the number 3, the number 4, the number 5, the number 7 player in the official world golf rankings, all of inside of one building at Palm Beach State College there at the SoFi Center. So fired up. Let's get into it.
Absolutely. Let's start doing these previews.
That is Tiger at its best.
All right, so to limit the confusion, Joe, we're just going to go by number. We're going to start with the first match on Monday night, match 9. We're talking about the Atlanta Drive going up against the Boston Common golf team. All right, Boston Common, they have the honor. They will be on the tee. Their lineup card is Rory McIlroy, Keegan Bradley, and Michael Thorbjornsen. Thorbjornsen still filling in, and they're going up against Chris Gotterup, Justin Thomas, who you had talked about already. He has come back from back surgery, and the first place he chooses to go is the SoFi Center. I'm fired up for that. And then Patrick Cantley. Both coordinators, over on the Boston side, we've got Niall O'Connor, and then, of course, Ben Helmrath at the helm, always, for Atlanta Drive. Your first reaction to those 2 lineup cards, it seems like Boston Common just keeps rolling out this same one over and over again, and it's been working.
It's been working. They didn't win a single match in season one. They're undefeated in season two, and they've got a big one to take and cement themselves in first place in the standings this week. You mentioned Justin Thomas. He was a easily top 3 player in TGL, in my opinion, last season. Happy to see him healthy. Happy to see him back in the lineup. Just a big match feel all the way around this, as I believe both teams roll out their top players.
Absolutely. I love this. If you're looking at the odds board, it's really not that close. In a lot of ways, the best odds I could find, you're at about a -124 for DraftKings, plus 100 I'm sorry, -124 for Boston, plus 100 for the Atlanta Drive. So Boston and this is the battle for first place. I know that Atlanta Drive did get upset by Jupiter Lynx last time they were out, but this is still the battle for first place. And, the bookmakers, they really feel like Boston Common is the favorite in this match. Do you feel the same way? I mean, is JT coming back? Is this an asset? I mean, there's a couple things going on here that, you and I were Atlanta Drive truthers for about a year. And then now all of a sudden it's caught my attention that they got caught by Jupiter Lynx.
Yeah, they got. And then they roll out, to the bench goes Billy Horschel. To the bench goes Lucas Glover from that match. Patrick Cantlay obviously is going to take part in this match, but the unknown and the uncertainty element here is Justin Thomas. I'm excited to see kind of what he's got. He's going to go head to head against Keegan Bradley, who's played as many holes as anybody inside the SoFi Center. Got her up. Rory, a little run back of the Scottish Open last year, should be fun. 2 guys who absolutely send it off the tee. Going to be exciting to see him, especially in the 2 singles holes that those 2 will go 1v1 on. The extremely long par 5 Bonnie Link Alpine, where it's just bombs away, where they will be looking to potentially set a record for driving distance in TGL. Fired up to kind of see this match. I don't know. You mentioned the odds. I don't know that I see a great advantage spot right now. I'm just excited to see these top 2 teams go head to head.
I'm really excited for those first 2 players because you've got a 2-time winner on tour and got her up. And then you've got Rory McIlroy, who's the number 2 ranked player in the world. He's also he sits in second place at Riviera as we're recording this. Got her up, missed the cut at Riviera. I still think, got her up still good, but I love this head-to-head matchup right off the bat. JT versus Keegan. Keegan missed the cut, there at Riviera. JT with all the unknowns, and then you've got, in that last seat, Thorbjornsen, he didn't get into Riviera, and then you've got Cantlay, who's, sitting there inside the top 20 with 1 round to go. I think he's 15th. Thorbjornsen's been the putter. You've had Rory with the driver. It's really one of those matchups when I look at these 2 teams where Boston is the Bombers, right? They're first in driving accuracy and in driving distance. And they're also putting it really, really good. And then you've got Atlanta, who is like number 6, ranked 6th or last in driving distance, but they kill it in singles. They kill it with the hammer. Just thinking about the players and the lineup cards, anything else stand out to you before we get into the golf course?
It's just kind of interesting because Atlanta, I think, set the blueprint in season 1 for how to use strategy and analytics, in particular in relation to the hammer. And Boston seems like the team that picked up on that most. They have the analytics card. Teddy has gotten a hold of that, and it's shown in season 2 as they flip from essentially worst to first, potentially at the end of this match. Yeah, we can pull up the course here. I'll pull it up now, Keith. Kind of what sticks out to you from a course standpoint. You do as good a job as anybody is breaking this down.
So very long golf course, Joe. Be prepared for that. Little over 6,200 yards, 6,203 yards. And what really stands out and where you're going to find the length is that we don't have any reachable par 4s in this match. Really, it's the average par 4 here is like 459 yards. This is a long golf course. And we know that I just said it. Atlanta Drive is the shortest team in the TGL off the tee. And Boston is not only the longest, but they're the most accurate. And you start to look at hitting these fairways. These fairways, they're about average for TGL standards for a 15-hole scorecard, 62% historically the players are hitting these fairways and they're hitting about 65% of the green. So that's a little higher than usual. So, and again, well, we'll get to this in a second, but that's, we're only looking at 14 of the 15 holes because we do have a new hole that we're going to talk about. But right now, when I look at the golf course and I look at how long it is, I think it certainly favors Boston Common without a doubt. And we do have 8 holes that are season 2, one of which is Lavender Lane, a new Gil Hanse design. Take me through that one and take everyone through this new hole that we're going to see in match 9.
Yeah, about a 450-yard par 4, Keith, sort of a double dog leg that goes left and then comes back to the right. Really kind of entices players to bite off as much as they want to chew, in a sense. The more that they want to cut that dog leg down, the more risk that is implied there. I'm interested to see if the lavender fields will play as a penalty area. I assume they will, but there's a little bit of murkiness there. You got to be bold. You got to cut the corner, and then you give yourself the best angle in a short wedge into the green versus if you lay back, you have a much more difficult approach shot on that particular hole. So Cantlay will be hitting the tee shot there for Atlanta Drive. Thorn Bjornsson, who plays that big high draw for Boston Common, which could suit up really nicely for this particular hole.
Yeah, I'm glad you went there because when you go head to head between those two guys and the way this long par 4 sets up, I definitely see an advantage. Now, this is going to be the 6th hole, everyone. So we're playing triples format in this. So everyone's going to get a chance to hit a shot. Well, I guess there could be an eagle there could be a hole out. So not everyone, but there's a very good chance that everyone on each team is going to get going to get to play this hole in some fashion. So big advantage though to Boston Common Golf off the tee. And I think in a lot of ways that is a little bit of a microcosm for the way this match in my mind is kind of leading. Like it's just like hole after hole after hole. You've got these really, really long, stout driving holes. Obviously the 5 par 5s, as much length as you can chew off is certainly an advantage. And then you look at that lineup and, Keegan Bradley is far from popcorn and he's their third, their shortest driver between Rory and Thor Bjornsson, who are just going to let the shaft out. For me, as I look at the golf course and I look at the lineup cards, a lot of pressure there on Goddard. And JT's a long player, but coming back from back surgery, if that guy's running into the TGL dome and just like letting the shaft out hardcore before he even plays around on the PGA Tour, that seems kind of a little bit of a wild scenario to me. What do you think?
Yeah, I lean Boston. I think they do have an advantage for all the reasons you said, in particular with this golf course. So 3 of the last 7 holes are par 5s. You also throw in Alpine, which is an extremely long par 4 there. So coming down the stretch, I think this could be an opportunity to look to play Boston potentially live if the match is close or if they're down at like the halfway point of this match, because the closing 7 holes are very long, which is where they're going to be able to take advantage of that distance. And not only are they long, went from worst to first this year in putting. They're number 2 in scrambling. So on a really long golf course, you tend to miss a lot of greens as well. So one of the better scrambling teams this year, the best putting team, and of course, by a wide margin, the best off the tee. I think this course sets up better for the Boston Common.
I love that lean. You put a bow on it perfectly. Let's jump to match 10. Now we've got the Los Angeles Golf Club versus the Atlanta Drive Golf Club. They're playing a doubleheader that night. Lineup cards, Atlanta Drive has the honor. They will be first off the tee on the first hole. And now, I don't know why this guy's taking matches off, but Billy Horschel is going to lead the way. Then we get Patrick Cantlay and we get Lucas Glover. Switching a couple players there. Go over to the LAGC side, and you've got number 3, 4, and 5 in the official World Golf Rankings. Justin Rose, followed by Tommy Fleetwood, followed by Colin Morikawa. 3. Fleetwood won the Tour Championship. Rose won the Farmers. Colin just won at Pebble. I mean, have we ever seen a team this stacked coming in? Coordinators aside, I mean, 3, 4, and 5 in the world. And we'll get into the odds in a second. I just need your initial impressions there.
Yeah, must-win match, and they aren't taking any chances here, Keith.
No.
I mentioned those last, removing the swing season there, the last 8 PGA Tour tournaments. 4 of them have been won by members of LAGC. 3, 4, 5 in the world is as loaded as it gets. The best lineup in the history of TGL in terms of world golf rankings. They are loaded. To me, this feels like Atlanta it's kind of subbing out Goddard, who's number 7 in the world. They're removing JT, who's kind of the heartbeat of that team and was one of the best players last year. I'm a little concerned about this roster spot for the Atlanta Drive, and I think a huge advantage in terms of ability for the underdog LAGC team here in this matchup.
Yeah. Got her up for Glover. I mean, the idea that they could have went Horschel, Cantley, got her up in the nightcap. For me, I would be questioning that. And I know. I'm questioning Ben Helmrath. But, you know, and I get it. They have to, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say there's some sort of fatigue factor or whatever. They don't have to change the lineup. Certainly Horschel, I wouldn't use JT twice because of the injury, but subbing in Horschel, oh man, I don't know. This other lineup is so stacked. It's kind of crazy, you know. And when I start to think about it, and I noticed something on the odds board. So our friends at FanDuel, I think someone mistyped something, and I would get to it as soon as I can on Sunday morning. But they have the Atlanta Drive is the favorites and considerable favorites. As of the time we're recording this, they're minus 138 and LA is plus 110. And I know you've pointed out a number of things about LA and where they sit on the SoFi Cup standings and odds board there. I mean, really, in my mind, LAGC should be favored in this match just based upon talent alone. Are you with me on that?
Yes. My favorite pick of any of the 4 matches right here on LAGC as they remain the underdog. That probably doesn't last for long. I also would parlay that into, like, if you think LA is going to win this match, they're plus 650 to win the TGL. So they're currently in that 3rd position in the standings. If they beat Atlanta Drive, they are definitely in the playoffs. They are looking good. The only spot of bother and concern right now for LA is they're getting absolutely bludgeoned by the hammer. Now, their normal match coordinator is Carl Smith, the caddy for Sahith Thagala. He won't be here this week. Still a bit of a TBD who's going to wield the team manager role over there for LAGC, but you've got 3 veteran players. You've got Justin Rose, you've got Tommy Fleetwood, you've got Colin Morikawa, all pretty sound decision makers for the most part, pretty calculated guys on the golf course. I think they'll be just fine, and I think they have a huge advantage in skill.
Rose versus Horschel on Stinger. What do you like?
Interesting there. You know, Billy, I remember, took the very first shot in Stinger and ended up hitting the rock. I don't know that it's going to be the most comfortable spot for Justin Rose, but I like the fact that they've got, you know, so what's interesting about this match and what TGL matches is 5 of the 15 holes, 33% of the holes are par 3s. Right? Yep. That is way higher percentage than is on the PGA Tour. So when you have par 3s, it just emphasizes the importance of precision, and nobody hits precise 150-yard shots like Tommy Fleetwood, like Colin Morikawa, and like Justin Rose. Those 3 are awesome. So the fact that you get this influx of par 3s where they can really showcase their short to mid-iron game, I think is a really nice spot for them to come out here and pull an upset victory.
All right, so let's talk about that for a second, because the scorecard, the 15-hole scorecard for match number 10, shrinks down to just over 5,900 yards. It's 5,910 yards, and your average par 3, to your point, is about 193 yards in the on this scorecard. The 4s drop way down from match 9 to right around a 400-yard average. So they've drastically shortened the golf course, and they've made the fairways much harder to hit. Again, we're going to get a new hole on Monday night. So historically, the 14 fairways we've seen before only get hit like 59 or 60% of the time. So who's accurate to hit these fairways? And then the second thing is, because you're not hitting a lot of fairways on these holes, you can make the assumption it's tougher to hit a lot of greens. And, LA is definitely the more accurate team. I look at that matchup between Morikawa and Glover, and I know Glover is a ball striking Jesse. I mean, the guy, he absolutely straight flushes it. But Morikawa, he's hit 100% of his fairways this season so far in season 2 there in the matches that he's played. And he's hit 100% of the greens in regulation in a singles matches. I look at that anchor match as kind of the key in who's going to win this, because Morikawa coming off the win, we've seen him at Riviera, we see how confident he is, and this golf course, the way that you just broke it down and the kind of details I just laid out there, is all about a Fleetwood Morikawa Rose Iron Fest, and I just love that side of the coin right now.
Yeah, you just aligned the story there. I did want to bring onto stage here the closing hole of this match. We finally get a nice little interesting design par 5. Keith, we've been asking for this a little bit. Like this one's pretty radical here. Obviously, you've got inside of the cave elements. Just looking at it from a view standpoint, the sharp dog leg there, you've got to avoid these stalagmites or whatever you want to call them that are coming from the ceiling there. You see TGL sent us over this video kind of aligning how narrow this fairway shoot is. If you want to try to go up the left-hand side, you can go up the right-hand side, but you've got to deal with these overhanging elements here. Really cool. What was your thought when you first saw this hole?
So when I first saw it, and it's called Caverns, everyone, and it's going to be, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the closing hole for match 10. Okay. Par 5 closing hole. My first impression, Joe, was like, how high is the ceiling?
Yeah.
Because I wanted it to be like 100 feet high, because most guys hit their driver a little higher than that. I wanted them to have to flight the whole way through. That's not going to be the case. The ceiling is high enough that they can hit normal shots. Now, the stalactites, because they have to hold on tight, are the ones from the ceiling. Quick PSA for you, right? Okay. Those things are pretty big, and guys are going to have to shape shots around those things. And the mites coming out of the ground, which are mighty, they also have to kind of pay attention to where those are too. They have gotten very creative with this, and I love it, because we finally have a par 5 that's going to make these guys think like last hole does as a par 3 or Stinger does as a par 4. So I'm very, very happy to see this. I'm excited. And I think that this particular new design very much aligns with this scorecard overall, because I went and looked at the number of penalties all time on these holes historically. And, I bring this up from time to time. We talked about it 2 weeks ago, and I said, historically, this golf course had, I guess, given the players 21 penalty shots, right? The guys that they'd hit the penalty areas 21 times. It's 34 for this layout, Joe. It's 13 more, and that doesn't count Caverns, because we haven't played there yet. But there's water everywhere. These things are hanging out of the ceiling. Like, yeah, they kind of see where they are, but those guys, it took them weeks to figure out how high the Stinger cliff was, how really high that was. And now these things are hanging. It's on the balance of the last hole. And this should be a tight match between these two teams. I really love this. I think it's super, super cool.
Yeah, really cool as well. Excited to see it. From everything you just described there, I want the team that's more accurate. I want the team that hits better iron shots, and I think we're both aligned with who that is. Want to get to match 11?
Match 11, New York Golf Club versus the Bay. The Bay is back. We saw them with the huge upset the last time that TGL was played. The Bay, they do have the honor. They'll be teeing off first. That lineup is Ludwig Oberg, sorry. The kid is back. Wyndham Clark, Shane Lowry, Josh Seipel, he's the coordinator over there. Of course, on the New York side, we're going to get Xander Schauffele, Matt Fitzpatrick, and Ricky Fowler. Craig Joy, who is the second manager for New York, is going to be stepping in. Those are the two lineups there. Match 11, the Bay versus New York. New York with a game in hand, too. Only played twice. So an interesting dynamic here as these two teams fight for one of those third or fourth spots there in the playoffs.
You mentioned the Bay is back, but are they really back? Because the last time we saw them in here, they had 3 different players in the lineup, and they got themselves off the schneid and put up 11 points. Now, all 3 of those guys hit the bench, and they go back to Oberg, Clark, and Lowry. I believe this, Keith, is the first ever match by my count that is a straight rematch, lineup for lineup in the TGL. We saw this exact same 3-man rosters go out in season 1. The Bay won that matchup 9-2 in a blowout. So we're going to get a rematch here and see if New York can get some redemption.
It's not only the first match to be repeated. This was the first match last year. This was the inaugural match of TGL. back last January, and they're using the same lineup cards. It's the same two teams. And well, one thing's for sure that's different, Joe, and that's the golf course, right?
Yeah.
The golf course. Now, it's not necessarily a repeat of match 9 because you're going to change the home team holes. But the other 13 holes are the same as what we saw or what we will see between Boston and Atlanta in match 9. And as such, it's a long golf course, 6,148 yards. Again, because both of the home team holes are par 5s, that average par 4 is still pushing 460 yards. A lot of length in this golf course, which is making the fairways pretty difficult to hit 62% of the time historically. And then, of course, you've got the greens in regulation. They go up a little bit. It seems as if these two hometown holes make this golf course a little bit easier to play. The Big Apple for New York, and of course, Bay Breaker for the Bay Golf Club.
Yeah, interesting. I really thought, given the length of this golf course, when I looked at it as well, that this might be a better spot for Cam Young, who I think like they missed out on not putting him in here, and what I think is a must-win match for them. I know the recent form on the PGA Tour has been slipping, but I've seen him in the SoFi Center. He's hit 2 of the most impressive shots I've seen all year. Yeah. Ben did one around the rock on Stinger about 275 after Xander hit one in the water and then made eagle on a short par 4. I think they could really use his length in this matchup. And once again, I'm here to question what are we doing on the side of the Bay by giving Shane Lowry all the long holes, Keith?
He's got them all. Again. They did it again. They absolutely did it again. And, what's interesting about New York. Now, New York last year, they were a great putting team. But they're also leading the TGL right now in scrambling. So they're kind of modus operandi, right? The DNA of that team is evolving a little bit. And when I look at that lineup card, it still kind of fits the mold for me. They are the best scrambling team statistically right now, and they're ranked number 2 in short putts and mid-range putts. I mean, if you're making a lot of those 10 to 30 footers, you're winning matches. I mean, that's what Michael Thorbjornsen did in that first match for Boston Common, right? He made 4 of those, you win the match. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. You start making 15, 20 footers, you're doing some good work, right? For me, I got to bring this up. I mean, it's not just the lineup card for the Bay, and I know they pulled the upset, but this thing could be all smoke and mirrors. They are still not hitting the golf ball very good at all, but they are basically earning all their points off hammers. Can they keep that luck strategy up? I don't know, against a team that is not only scrambling well, but putting well and has some pretty good players there. I mean, Xander's peaking at Riviera. Matt Fitz has been really, really strong on tour this year. Ricky Fowler striking it well. The course, the teams, which way are you going here?
I think it was more along the lines of you had a team that really had to come back in that last match against the Bay. They were forced into throwing the hammers. They doubled down on one of them. Neil Shipley made a couple of big putts. But I think New York is well positioned here. I really like the number 2 hole there kind of in the lineup as an advantage spot. I might look to isolate in terms of matchup markets. You can get it just in singles. Matt Fitzpatrick versus Wyndham Clark. You get the last toll there for Fitz, who I really like his ability to move the golf ball. Wyndham might have some demons playing that hole, as he was the one who hit the suspension wire the last time around. And then they also get Stinger. So
they get Stinger.
Fitz can hit it really low. Wyndham hits it really high. I like that spot there, and those 2 holes in particular, I think, are both advantageous to Matthew Fitzpatrick. They're probably going to be priced somewhere around even money on both sides of that matchup. So it's one of the ones I'll definitely be looking to when they release those singles numbers, because I like Matt Fitz there.
The overall matchup there in number 11, there's a slight lean towards New York Golf Club, and there should be. Basically, just on paper alone, right? It's just a better team overall, and their ability to score in the SoFi Center makes such a big difference. You make a really good point about why the Bay accumulated so many hammer points and how that's kind of like a little bit of false confidence if you're looking at them. I'll put my PGA hat on for a second. Wyndham Clark hits it super high. He hits a big pull cut, and he has a ton of power, and he hits a ton of fairways that way. And when he's on, he's very, very good. To lower that ball flight on that particular style, where that window is in the upper left right there, is super hard to do, whereas we know Fitz can drill that ball about 10 feet off the ground and hit it underneath the cliff. I think that you're spot on that Stinger is going to be one of the key moments in that match. And I also like getting New York in a position where, like, the Bay's had just a lot of transition going on, whereas New York just keeps rolling out the same 4 guys all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, Ben Griffin may never make it in the lineup. I don't
Right.
know, but they have a doubleheader that night. If New York, if you're not going to be worried about the fatigue factor and everything, if you're in match 11, I'm leaning on New York's side. I'm with the books. They're slightly favored, and I think for good reason. And it sounds like you're in lockstep there as well. And then, of course, we're going to go to match number 12, which is the last of the evening, and we're going back to Boston Common, who was there on Monday night, and then the doubleheader, the nightcap, the second run out there for the New York Golf Club. New York Golf Club in this particular match, they do have the honor. They're switching in Cam Young. They're going to go with Schauffele again in the second spot and then close out with Fowler. Boston Common is going with Adam Scott, Hideki Matsuyama, and Keegan Bradley. Niall O'Connor on one side. New York in the middle of an evening or a doubleheader is switching their coordinator over to Chris Wilson. Questionable play there. I don't know. Maybe if they have a really good first match, Craig stays. I don't know. It all seems kind of like that seems a little weird to me or whatever, but very even match on the book front here. When you see those 2 lineup cards and the introduction of Adam Scott and Hideki Matsuyama, what are your thoughts?
Well, I brought it up a little early there because you mentioned the continuity that we see out of New York Golf Club, the same 4 guys. So each one of these guys in this matchup will have played 3 matches in season 2 prior to this thing teeing off at 9 p.m. That's not the case for Boston. Adam Scott and Hideki haven't seen any of these season 2 holes. They probably, based on where they make their home base, probably have not been to the SoFi Center, in my estimation, this season. They're probably just on a group chat with the boys congratulating them on victories. So I struggle to understand the reasoning why to throw them into this spot in the second match, but they're here. Hopefully, for their sake, they were able to take care of the Atlanta drive the night before. But I'd be careful here if I'm Boston rolling out a new situation, because these guys did not work together well last year, right? It didn't work.
No.
They were worst in the league. Now they're in the best position. So if you lose to Atlanta on Monday, then you come back here, you just got to be careful, because you don't want to lose all that positive momentum that you've built up for season 2, and it could go slipping right out the back door of the SoFi Center pretty quick, because these guys for New York have played a lot of holes in here.
And this is why it's so valuable to watch the TGL show. I mean, flat out, this is why you have to do it, because if you just look at statistically the 2 teams and it's kind of an even match, and then you see and you're like, oh, well, Hideki's playing good, and look at the stats. These guys are number 1 in driving and number 1 in driving accuracy. And Boston's playing so well. These aren't the guys that have been producing those statistics.
Right.
It's been Thor Bjornsson's putter, and it's been Rory's driver. And Keegan Bradley, I mean, he missed the cut at Riviera. Admittingly, he hasn't been strong this year out there on the PGA Tour. So now you're taking what could be your best lineup on Monday night, and you're flipping out 2 guys. To me, that's very, very interesting from, kind of a lineup card perspective. And then now we know from the second match on Monday that this is an accuracy-laden golf course. So all of a sudden, we're taking guys that haven't seen these holes, and we're saying they're already harder from an accuracy perspective, right? So the scorecard for this is 5,880 yards, right? Again, we've got the shorter par 4s. We've got the longer par 3s. We've got fairways that are tougher to hit, 60%. We've got greens that the greens and regulation percentage actually goes down from match number 10. So, because of the addition of the new of the 2 switched out home team holes. So, for me, I have a lot of concerns about removing both Rory and Thor Bjornsson from this lineup when I look at that. And if it's even possible, right? There's a ton of penalty situations in this. This is a super accuracy laden golf course, Joe.
Yeah, the volatility definitely increases with this particular course setup. So another reason that I kind of like the idea of siding with New York here is you've got 2 of the 3 guys who are going to play in that prior match earlier at 5 p.m. Guys have just had experience playing these far more exotic season 2 golf holes.
Yep.
Everyone has that experience. Only Keegan does for Boston. I really think that could end up playing a pivotal factor in this match.
That I think you're spot on there. Let's recap some leans, but let's go from a confidence perspective, right?
Okay.
You've mentioned this a couple times throughout. There's 4 different matches. Everyone's welcome to pick someone for each match if they want, and certainly, watch our content on Monday and Tuesday night in the SoFi Center when we're doing live picks, just kind of after watching the guys warm up, when we're touching turf, as you love to say. We'll definitely put some more social media out there in order to kind of recap our thoughts right before the matches start. But from a confidence level, you look at these 4 matches. If you had to pick, where's the first one that you're really leaning on one side or the other?
LA Golf Club plus 110. That's my favorite pick of the week. So I would rank them. I would go LA Golf Club and their matchup against Atlanta Drive. Atlanta rolls out Glover. They bring in Horseshoe. I feel like that's their weakest lineup set versus LA's best lineup set, and they're underdogs there. So I'll take the plus money there. My second favorite spot is that Fitz versus Wyndham matchup there in the third match that I'm going to look to kind of isolate as that number is released. But since that is not out yet, I'll go ahead and take New York Golf Club plus 115 in the final match there against Boston in a bit of an upset. It is the team that is currently in last place versus the team that is currently in first place. But I just think New York has so much more experience. I just don't love them throwing Hideki and Adam Scott. And I realize they're world-class players. They're world beaters. But I just not being there yet, I don't think this is the greatest format for them. I think that it could alter the continuity of that team that has seemingly worked so well through their first couple of matches this season. So I've got a couple of underdogs on my card. Where are you leaning in terms of the big super week for TGL?
All right. From a confidence perspective, I'm going to flip the first 2. I love the New York early match against the Bay. That'd be the first place I'd go. Right now, the numbers like right around minus 120, minus 110, with New York being the favorite. So they're the minus 120. I do like that one for all the reasons we've discussed. The second one would be the LA matchup, the second matchup on Monday night. Now, what's interesting about this is that by the time we get to that fourth matchup, and I love that you touched upon that one third, and you're kind of staying away. I want to stay away from that first matchup too. The unknown with JT is a lot for me, and also it's kind of like the battle for first place. But what's going to be so unique about this week is that by the time we get to that fourth match, because New York has a game in hand, New York, Boston, Boston could start the week with a battle for first place, and that fourth match could still be a battle for first place. Because if Atlanta gets blanked on Monday night, right, and Boston win 1 and New York wins early, and then New York goes for 2 in a row, they'll be battling for first place. There's so much volatility that could take place here. You got to tune in. You got to watch. It's going to be great. But that's where my confidence levels are at. I'm just flipping the first 2.
Okay. Got it.
All right. So Joe, somehow we did it. We previewed 4 matches, and we did it as fast as we could. Without, I guess what you could do is you could always speed it up on audio, and make it 2 times as fast. But truthfully, thanks for all the research you put in, Joe. Thanks to everyone for watching. Thanks to our producers. Thanks to Golf Space Collective for doing all the posting for us on social media and, trying to make us as creative as we can be. Next week's show, the TGL is just, they're always trying to challenge us, Joe, in some fashion, right? We're starting with Tiger versus Rory on Sunday night next week. So the TGL show, which has been in a nice little kind of like sweet spot on Sunday mornings where guys, fans of the league, kids even, can wake up in the morning, get the Sunday paper. You can watch a little TGL show. We're going to be moving to Saturday morning. We're taking on the cartoons, but that's okay because we've got Tiger and Rory. And then we break into a match on Monday night. We break into a match, Monday night, you've got LA, New York. And then Tuesday night, we close it all out the regular season. We've got the Bay versus Jupiter Links. Tiger back in the house one more time as manager. He's been doing a lot of talking about
as manager. You sure? As manager?
He's been doing a lot of talking about playing. Nance tried to get him in the booth during the Riviera coverage, and Tiger never gives you anything, but I don't know. If JT could do it, 6 months after back surgery or 5 months after back surgery, you know he's got to be texting him saying, dude, you could play some TGL. Any thoughts on that?
You got to hit about 2 drivers. If he can hit the driver twice, he can play a 15-hole match where you're rotating 9 of them as alt shots. So I think it's doable. I don't think he's going to jeopardize anything long term for that little place there in Georgia in a few weeks after. But we'll have to wait and see. Excited for this. Florida swing is here. TGL swing is upon us. 7 matches over the next week and a half here. Super fired up. Thanks again to you for kind of keeping me on the rails tonight.
Hey, TGL show Sunday mornings. You got to watch Preferred Lines with Joe and John Sunday nights. Of course, you'll always see Pat Mayo and I in the final word on Wednesday mornings. That's your week outside of the TGL if you're watching for PGA Tour purposes. Hey, I'm your host, Keith Stewart from Read the Line. This is the TGL show. Peace, everybody.